America stop building new F-22 Raptor. In the late 1990s, the United States was at a post-Cold War apex. Not only did it have the largest fleet of combat aircraft in the world, it was also producing the only fifth-generation fighter in existence, the F-22 Raptor. By 2009, the U.S. government had turned against the fighter, and only 187 were produced. What happened to the F-22 program, and why there is no new fighter program during that time? The F-22 Raptor's story begins in the early 1980s. Eager to maintain America's edge in air superiority fighters, the U.S. Air Force began looking for a replacement for the F-15C Eagle. In 1990, a fly-off between the Northrop YF-23 and the Lockheed Martin YF-22 resulted in the service choosing the YF-22, later renamed the F-22 Raptor, as a future of American air power. Early on, the U.S. Air Force believed that 750 of the new fighters would cost approximately $26.2 billion, at $35 million per plane. By 1990, with the Cold War virtually over, the George H.W. Bush administration trimmed the buy to 648 aircraft. By 1997 that number dropped again to 339, and by 2003 the number had been trimmed again to 277. In 2009, that number was cut again to 187, plus 8 testing and development aircraft, and the production line was terminated and no sign of new F-22 Raptor program from 20 years. There is little doubt the F-22 Raptor is the greatest air superiority fighter of its time. The problem was that the fighter's development went on for so long that its primary adversary, the Soviet Air Force, went out of business. The F-22 also collided with current events, as the economic demands an economic recession, nearly a depression that began in 2008 and only ended in 2010 was clearly another reason. The program's path to deployment was a long one, too. The Advanced Tactical Fighter Project, which begat the F-22 Raptor, began in 1981. The Raptor's first flight was in 1990, and the aircraft achieved initial operating capability in 2005. By comparison, the F-15 Eagle went from design selection to first flight in 7 years, from 1965 to 1972, and achieved initial operating capability in 1976. In other words, the F-22 took more than twice as long to develop than the F-15. During that time the Soviet Union went from competing superpower, dissolving in 1991. The mighty Soviet Air Force was broken up among the surviving republics, and fighter development in the newly formed countries was restricted to upgrading existing designs, such as the MiG-29 and Su-30. Few in number and flown by pilots with minimal flight hours during the lean economic years of the 1990s, they presented no compelling reason to rush the F-22. The F-22 also gained an air-to-ground capability during that time, extending its usefulness. The lengthy development period also put the F-22 in indirect competition with the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. Although different aircraft designed for different roles, the F-35 was a cheaper aircraft with similar and in some cases greater capabilities than the F-22, and it apparently played a role in Defense Secretary Robert Gates recommending F-22 termination. As Gates did so, he recommended accelerating the F-35 program instead. Gates predicted that the United States would have 1,700 F-35s by 2025, a number that, given the cost overruns and delays of the controversial program, the Pentagon is unlikely to meet. Did America make a giant mistake? On the other hand, the world has changed once again in the intervening years, and the Chinese and Russian air forces are in the midst of their own extensive modernization efforts, just as both countries grow on the world stage. There are now 3 fifth-generation aircraft, the Chinese J-20 and FC-31, and the Russian T-50 in development, set to challenge US air power. None of these aircraft existed in 2009, when Secretary Gates cancelled the F-22. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe.